Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Radio Revision. Okay. Here is a revision guide on Edexcel English Language Paper 2. This is the exam that is coming up soon. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes long. So here are some quick tips and just a reminder of various bits and bobs. First of all, this exam has two sections. Section A is on Anthology B of your anthology, so that's the poetry and the short stories. This section of your exam, allow yourself 45 minutes, and it's worth 24 marks. There's just one question. Section B of this exam is the writing section. You have to answer 2 questions, and you have 45 minutes, so about 22 minutes per question. And again, it's also worth 24 marks. Now, in Section A, you will be given a copy of either a poem or one of the stories from Section B. And then you have one question, and you don't get a choice. It's just one question, and you have to write an essay answering that question. Now, about the mark scheme. We know that you need examples. We know that you need to write about the effect, etc., etc. You use pearls here, so you use paragraphs that follow the pearl formula. Your point, your evidence, your analysis, the reader, and then the link to the topic. However, what you may not have noticed, or for those of you that have, just a reminder, that we want to use its pearls for this. So its means that in your answer, you somewhere talk about the ideas of the text, you talk about the themes of the text, and you talk about the settings of the text. And why not make it really easy for the examiner and actually use the key words of idea and theme and setting? Just a signpost for the examiner when you're writing about those things. Okay, so here's a sample question. How does the writer create a sense of horror in out? Now, you know that the invisible words are about language and structure, so the question actually should read in your mind, how, through the language and structure, does the writer create a sense of horror in out? Now, you also need to remember to talk about ideas, and talk about themes, and talk about setting. So you could talk about how the setting of out creates a sense of horror because the setting is very idyllic. Robert Frost wrote a lot of pastoral poetry about nature. It's very calm at the beginning of the poem, and then this horrible incident happens. So how do you revise for this part of the exam? You must know those 5 poems and 5 short stories very, very well. You need to reread them, read your annotations, and of course answer sample questions. You could also use something like this. This is a mat. Don't make fun of my drawing and coloring. This is a mat that I made for Veronica a couple years ago, and as you can see, I've just summed up the key things about language, the key things about structure, a sample exam question, so you could use that for your revision, and setting, characters, and actions. What I would add to this is to make sure that on there I've written down the ideas and the themes as well. So you can make these for your different texts. So a typical question is going to say, how, through the language and structure, does the writer build up strong feelings of fear and uncertainty? So it will give you bullet points, and if you'll notice it says you should write about, so please do write about these things. And then just make sure that you connect them into ideas, themes, and setting. Okay, again, looking at the language and the structure. So for this text, you could talk about what the other people do in the setting of the room whilst they're waiting to be deported. Lots of really interesting language used to describe the setting there. Think about Andre and how he acts and which themes you might be able to connect that to. And when it says the way that language is used to create effects, well, actually they've already told you what the effects are in the question. They've said strong feelings of fear and uncertainty. So there you go. Exam question. How does the story of King Sharararar and his brother hold the interest of the reader? Please note, it says should. So just a reminder that if it says should, you need to write about those 4 bullet points. There are 4 paragraphs for you, and then you can add on a conclusion if you've got time. Now you'll notice this one says the presentation of the Sultan. When you're asked about how a character is presented, I'd like you to use these character boxes, and this is a really good way to revise as well. So think about how a character speaks and make some notes on that. Maybe write down a few of the key things that the character says. what a character acts like, and also what a character looks like. So what does their appearance, what does their personality tell you about a character? What are the main actions that the character takes, and what does that tell you about the character? These are what we call characterization boxes. All of these different elements combined is how a writer uses characterization. You can also look about what other characters and also what the author, maybe through narration, says about that character. This is a really good way to revise. See if you can fill out one of these boxes for each of the characters. Even better if you can do it from memory. All right, moving on to section B. So, section B, you've got 2 questions. For each of those, this is how you should spend your time. Take 5 minutes to plan, 15 minutes to write, and about 2 minutes or so to edit. Make yourself stop after 22 minutes so that you go on to the second part of section B and have time to write that. It's really important that you watch your timings because there won't be anyone there telling you to stop and to move on. Now, no matter what type of writing question you get, you must do these things. Vary your sentence structure, okay, because you're getting 1/3 of your marks on this part of the exam for your sentences, your paragraphs, your spelling, punctuation, grammar. So vary your sentence structure, simple, compound, complex. Vary your punctuation. Try to get at least 1 colon in there, 1 semicolon, 1 dash. Use trappers and other devices. So remember, trappers stands for triads, rhetorical devices, adjectives, adverbs, polls, statistics, personal anecdote, emotive language, repetition, and sentence structure. And make sure you read the question really carefully and make sure you write for the correct audience and in the correct format. Right, let's look at the January 2014 exam. So the first question on section B, young people spend too much time on the internet and watching television. Naughty, naughty young people. Write the text of a short talk to an audience of teenagers in which you give your views on the subject. Now, some of you might get confused by this because it doesn't tell you which writing triplet they're asking you about. Well, don't panic. Just write what they're asking you to write. They want you to write a speech to a group of teenagers in which you give your views on the subject. So you are simply informing and explaining your views. All right? Now, key words, though, are also in this part of the question. The internet and watching television. So make sure that you look at the entire question. The second question on the 2014 exam was to write a short story with the title The Fall. Now, with a short story, although it doesn't tell you which type of writing, you know you're going to be describing. Now, with the title The Fall, you can take that however you want. I had students sit this exam, and I had students write about the fall as in autumn, which is what we call it in the States. I had students write about an actual physical fall, such as down the hill on a ski trip. And then I had students who looked at it more metaphorically and, the fall from a high position of status, for example. The most important thing, if you get a short story, is to make sure you have a beginning, middle, and end. This is why it is so important to plan. Okay, you would plan how you want the story to begin, what you want to happen in the middle, and then what's going to happen in the end. Okay. Now, if you get asked to write a speech, I thought I would go over this because you didn't have to write a speech in your other exam, so I just kind of wonder if maybe you're going to get a speech in this one. So, in your introduction, you address the audience and you announce your topic. Here's my little example. Year 11, I'm just like you. I spend too much time on the internet and watching television. We're teenagers. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? However, I'm here today to talk to you about 3 reasons we may all want to decrease the amount of time we're staring at screens. Now, this is quite good, if I do say so myself, because year 11, we've addressed the audience, and then I, as the writer, I've identified with the teenagers, and that means that they're going to want to listen to me a bit more. Also, I've thrown in a little dash there, and I've varied the punctuation, so my spag marks for this little section would be quite good. Then you're going to need to have 3 paragraphs that have plenty of details, and devices about the topic. So here's the beginning of one of mine. Headaches, eye strain, sore neck. All of these are possible results of spending too much time hunched over your phone or iPad. And as you can see, I've done a couple little things. I've used a triad here at the very beginning and short dramatic sentences. Then, towards the end, don't forget your conclusion of your speech. Now, please don't end your speech by saying, "Thank you for listening to me." It's really, really boring. So instead, do what really good speakers do and give your audience a call to action. So you want them to think about something or you want them to do something. So, to conclude, who's with me? Let's all spend 15 minutes less a day online and use that time for more valuable activities. And just end it like that. If you must, you can write the words "thank you," yeah, but you don't have to. Okay, now, if the format isn't stated, they just want you to write an essay. Okay, so with an essay, remember it's the same thing as everything else you have to write. 5 paragraphs at least, introduction, 3 paragraphs in the middle, and a conclusion. All right? Okay, good luck, everyone. Add a star.